So, on the month of May 2018, me and a couple of my friends decided to take a hike. Well, not just any other hike. We decided to do the highest mountain pass in the whole world. Lungta Pass, standing at 5,416 meters above the sea level, was definitely going to be a challenging journey for all of us, especially since none of us are sporty. Just like any other aspiring filmmaker, I too gathered my camera, borrowed some lenses, packed my bags, and I was all set to go. But I did not have a concept. I didn't want it to make a travel vlog explaining all the things that one can easily find on the internet. I wanted it to be something different, something that's better than everyone else, and something that's definitely... When you come to these trails, one of the most common sights that catches your attention besides the mesmerizing mountain range are the prayer flags. You will find them fluttering around almost every village and tea stop along the trail. These colorful flags have an undeniable presence among the monochromatic nature surrounding them. As relaxing as it looks, when they sway with the gentle breeze of the morning wind, they are definitely not just there for decoration. So, what are these flags? According to the Tibetan Buddhism, these flags hold the answers to all our questions and solutions to all our problems in the form of mantras. When the flags get deteriorated with wind and the nature over the period of time, it's believed that all the answers and the solutions merge into the wind and spread around the world. In Buddhism, everything in this world is a various composition of 5 elements. We humans are composed of 6% of space, 6% of air, 4% of fire, 72% of water, and 12% of earth. Each of these elements also actuates 5 primary senses of our body. And yes, these different colors, they are the symbolic representation of the 5 key elements. Now, you might be thinking, how the hell does all this relate with hiking a mountain pass? So, here's how it's going to be. I'm going to break down my hiking experience into 5 different categories, according to the senses and the elements it relates to. Along the way, I will try to explain the importance and the significance of these elements in our daily life.
And last but not the least, I'm going to reveal you one of the important lessons that I've learned during making of this film.
On the Buddhist text, the space element represented by color blue is the medium of the sound, thus it is responsible for our sense of hearing. Oh yes, that time you felt the bass passing across your body in the music festival? That's literally sound using the space within you to travel. Due to the lack of time, we started our hike from a village called Chame. On the first day, we walk alongside Marshangdi River, listening to her endless burbles to spend a night at Upper Pisang village. Perhaps it was the steep descent of the river, or it was the glory of freshly melted water from glacier, eager to get acquainted with the ocean. Marshangdi definitely burbled louder than average, so much so that it worked as a sleeping aid for me a night before, cancelling out all the sounds of my friends snoring. As we hiked through our trip, our footsteps acted as a rhythm and the heavy breaths became our song.
तिम्रो नाम के हो?
नाम साजन.
साजन? हजुरको नाम साजन? अनि हजुरको?
थातन.
Occasional greetings by local villagers, fellow hikers, and the brief conversation with the random strangers at the tea stops became the interlude to our soundtrack. Ambient sounds like the bells on the neck of the yaks, fluttering of the prayer flags, turning of the prayer wheels often collaborated as a folk improvisation from the mountain. As we got higher, our original soundtrack got drowned by constant whistling and swooshing noise of the bountiful fierce wind. At times when the weather was in our favor, we witnessed an astounding sound of silence. So silent that if you sit very still and listen carefully, you can actually hear your own heartbeat. We hiked 26.4 kilometers from Upper Pisang to Manang. An odd combination of our rant and laughter became a frequent dose of the vitamins to keep on moving forward. Apparently I fucked my knee. Oof. Say hello, Biraj. Never-ending conversations with friends about everything and anything fueled us to endure anything in spite of our exhaustion and lack of stamina.
चामीबाट पिसाङ पिक भन्दा हामी यतातिर पर्यो न
मलाई कहिले देखाउ ल म्याप ल बच्चा बेला म खतरा म्यापहरु पढ्थे के हैन
फेरि सुरु भयो फेरि सुरु भयो
The sounds that we hear all around us in our daily life is only a perceivable aspect of the element of space. The space is a very strange and a different element. It is just there. We can't see it, we can't touch it, we can't say how far it extends and what it's made up of. Space is the container in which all the events of creation, destruction and everything in between takes place. We are constantly moving in the space, and this movement causes time. That's why space can't be owned. Space is just borrowed. It's hard for our brains to get around to contemplate the space element since we are conditioned to think in a simple 3 dimensions. However, it does challenges us to think there is more to it than one can physically perceive. The color white represents the element of air. This element actuates the sense of touch in our body. Living in a city like Kathmandu, where the condition of the air is vulnerable, air in the mountain gave us an instant dose of freshness. Calm and crisp air every morning charged us to the hike that laid ahead of us. During the day, sometimes harsh winds bullied us and threatened to push us off the cliffs. Other times, a gentle breeze on our sweaty bodies kept us cool and made our break shorter. Even though some parts of the trail were treacherous and never-ending torture to our muscles, there was something satisfying about our unrelenting fatigue at the end of the day. Materialistic comfort isn't one of the forte in these areas. My awesome gears from Sherpa, which felt incredibly comfortable, was the only thing close to the luxury I had. Air got thinner as we climbed higher, and the less oxygen resulted in effect on our physical as well as the mental performance. At times, a simple steep hill that we just climbed started to feel ridiculously terrifying. Our overall capacity of making decisions wasn't that sharp and reliable anymore. Miraculously, these effects subsided as soon as we stopped for a while and our bodies resiliently acclimatized in order to balance the air element within us. Air element can be further identified into the internal air and the external air. Right now, at this very moment, the oxygen that you are inhaling and the other gases in your stomach and other cavities of your body are the internal air element, whereas the air surrounding you and touching your skin at this very moment can be called external air. However, both of these categories have no boundaries between each other. There is only one air element. What lies within you is simply borrowed for a few moments. Just like any other element, you can't hold on to the air. In fact, you can only live by letting go, never by holding on. Red signifies the element of fire, and fire gives you the sense of vision. No words could ever do the views of Annapurna Range justice, so let's watch it. From the nuclear fusion happening in the middle of the sun to the countless chemical combustion taking place at the cellular level in your body, all these raw physical energies are the element of fire. You have to keep refueling the body's fire, because just like any other element, the fire within you is forever leaving. Whether it's in the form of the exhaled air or the warmth of your feces and urine, this element simply flows through you. The color green represents the element of water. This element gives you the sense of taste. Even before we started our hike, we drove across many stunning waterfalls and small streams flowing down to mix with Marshangdi River. Perhaps because of the steep nature of the terrain, the water trickled down swifter than average. It was as if the fresh water was celebrating its freedom after years of being frozen at glacier in the mountains. Since we relied entirely on drinking water from the natural springs, we didn't have to taste the odd flavor of the water purifying tablets. Instead, the magnificent mineral-rich taste of the icy cold water quenched our thirst every time. Being a real Nepali, we stuck to our dal bath routine every day. Even though our friendly hotel owner from Chami village suggested us to order burgers and pizzas, we made sure we had our daily dose of dal bath. It was surprising to us how tasty the food was in spite of it being plain and dull with spices. Our taste buds were extra active there. We were guided by Marshangdi River to reach its very origin at Kichaa. On the top of the Kichaa peak was the lake on its total calmness. Half frozen but still warm with its glory, Kichaa Lake made us feel calm and connected with the nature. Witnessing the glacier melt to the majestic lake itself at the altitude of 4,919 meters above the sea level was indeed once-in-a-lifetime experience. Yeah. 2/3 of the Earth's surface is covered with water. Similarly, 2/3 of your body is made out of water. Saliva in your mouth, the pulse of the blood, sweat, the tears that are constantly cleansing your eyes, the pressure of your urine in your bladder manifest as the water element that you can experience within you. You replenish your internal water element by drinking water and consuming water content in the food. The water element in your body must be frequently renewed for its proper functionality. Yellow represents the earth element, and this element gives you the sense of smell. The variety of the terrain in Annapurna Circuit baffled our mind. Initial part of the hike was more of a tropical terrain. It offered the scent of wet leaves, damp moss, occasionally pine and tint of petrichor. Whereas the higher terrains above 3,500 meters had almost desert-like landscape and smelled like the cool earth. No matter how the terrains were, it offered a distinct scenic beauty. Sometimes earth provided prominent shelter, and other times the earth beneath us wasn't even trustworthy. While the solid rocky mountain range made us feel safe and immovable, stepping on the loose gravels of the landslide area on the Kichaa made us realize how fragile, brittle and unstable earth could be. On the last couple of days before we crossed the Tarongla Pass, earth there had barely anything growing on it. Human settlements got thinner and thinner until we crossed the last tea house at the end of the Tarongla hike camp. The cold, uninhabited mountains no longer gave away any strong smell. Either because of the temperature or the lack of the human settlements at these areas, only thing we could smell here was the smell of the fresh ice carried by the cool mountain breezes. Barren steep climb until the pass taunted us with its uneven surface and intense elevations. The earth element is everything solid and resistant, everything that gives you a form. The external earth element in the form of food strengthens the internal earth of our body. All the solid components in our body, from skin and bones to lungs and intestines, are the internal earth element. Technically, you are constantly replenishing your earth element with the food that you eat and discarding the used ones in the form of feces and other waste. Regardless of its solidity and rigid nature, it is still not possible to hold on to the earth element. I decided to make this film because I wanted to do something different than everyone else. Every evening at the hotels, all the fellow hikers reunited in the heated tiny dining hall. While we all joyfully chatted about our almost similar experiences, I came to realize how we all are programmed to coexist with each other in this space. How every element that we identify as us is actually something so common that we constantly borrow and exchange from the rest of the existence. Yet, we entitle ourselves with ownership. We fight for territories. We struggle for domination. We cling on to attachments. After 10 days of our trip, we crossed Thorongla Pass on a foggy morning. It had started to snow halfway through our climb. Soon, mountains decided to turn cloudy and visibility wasn't in our favor anymore. Regardless, the Thorongla Pass looked absolutely majestic. The clouds on the other side of the pass that we were about to walk down to felt like straight from the pages of mystical tale. Even though we physically walked every step of the journey, I'm sure there were countless elements and energies that dragged our steps further. Thorongla had a huge cluster of dramatically calm and collected looking prayer flags. They were tied from both sides of the poles, holding the official signboard of Thorongla Pass. After catching some breath, I also took out the prayer flags that I had brought with me. As I was offering it to Thorongla, it got me thinking. Just like the prayer flags, we too are made up of 5 elements. Just like the prayer flags, we are also destined to get old, deteriorated, and expire one day. Just like the prayer flags, when we die, will our answers and solutions be of any use to the rest of the world?